Presenting the Northwest Bank Wildcat News with the Bolt's Emily Magas. News from the Humboldt schools presented every Wednesday at this time by Northwest Bank. And now, here's Emily.
Good morning. Thank you for tuning in to Northwest Bank Wildcat News on 97.7 The Bolt. I am joined this morning by Tamela Johnson, the Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment at Humboldt, as well as George Bruder, the Elementary Principal of Humboldt. And Tamela, I understand that you have an explanation. We're going to be talking about an early literacy intervention law this morning. Would you like to explain to me and to our listeners what this law is all about?
You bet, you bet. We just refer to it as ELI, the Early Intervention Law.
Okay.
Literacy Intervention Law. And what it is, it's a mandated legislation, and it's all about providing that effective evidence-based programming and instruction and assessment practices across the school to support all students to become proficient readers by the end of third grade. And in some of those provisions, there's a universal screening in reading that needs to occur for kindergarten through third graders. Those kids that are struggling a little bit with reading, we have to do some progress monitoring to kind of keep up to date on how they're progressing, and need to make sure that we provide that intensive core instruction, that 90 minutes of scientifically based research instruction for all students, and especially for those kids that are substantially deficient. And of course, notifying parents and working together for those kids that are substantially deficient, and including some strategies to help them to be able to help their child at home to succeed at school and at home with reading, and then to continue to notify the parents of how the progress is going. And then again, looking at an evidence-based summer reading program for those kids that are they're struggling readers. And the tough part about the law is in 2017, so not till May of 2017, any of our third graders that are not proficient will need to attend a summer school program.
Okay.
And if they attend that summer school program, then they can go on to fourth grade. But if they're in that substantially deficient category, then the school is obligated to retain them for another year to be able to get the skills needed to be successful with reading. So that's kind of one of those really critical things, and we're really trying to be proactive instead of reactive by having to retain, trying to have some proactive plans to be able to meet their needs.
Okay, and now you kind of hinted at this, but what about this core instruction that they may need?
Right. In the day, our days are pretty busy. You try to get science and social studies and math and reading and, music and art and PE and get recess and lunch. And that 7-hour day just seems to fly by. But within that 7-hour day, they want you to have some 90 minutes of scientifically based reading instruction for all students, and especially for those that are substantially deficient. And that's not a problem for Humboldt. We've had a pretty good 90-minute block. Might be split up into two sections during the day, but we've had that in the past. And one way we're making sure that it is scientifically based research is we adopted a new reading basal program this year called Reading Wonders. And with our new Iowa core, it's very intensive, looking at text evidence and close reading, they call it, and really some deep analysis of reading to get kids the skills that they need to be successful. And through our study on professional development days, on those Wednesdays when those kids go home early, that's what we're looking at, and we're developing some modules and putting some things together to help the teachers learn while the kids are home. The teachers are learning, and we have authentic intellectual work, so we're looking at our reading practices through that AIW lens, that depth of understanding, the higher order thinking, the substantive conversation and such.
All right, that sounds like a lot to take in. Also, how do you guys assess this program?
Right. So part of that, the law is that universal screener. And in the past, we've used a program called DIBBLES, and it's a dynamic reading indicators. And it's assessment that they sit down with one teacher, and then they go through a series of assessments to check to see how their reading skills are. And we've done that for years in kindergarten through fourth grade. and we'll continue that Dibbles assessment in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade this year. And, as always, we provide supports based on their performance. We set them up into small groups, and we'll continue that at 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade level. And there's a new assessment that the state is really encouraging schools to participate in, and they have instant access to our data and to kind of check on our progress. And the new assessment is called FAST. It's a formative assessment system for teachers, and they give it to the students 3 times a year. And we're starting at our EC5 program, also known as like prep or transitional kindergarten, and then we're also testing our kindergarten kids and our 1st grade kids and trying to figure out which of our kids are struggling the most and what kind of supports we can put in place. And through that test, we look at a variety of skills that are essential for reading success, looking at sight words and letter sounds and sounding out words and fluency and comprehension.
All right. And how do you guys progress or monitor the progress of the program, too?
Right. And like I said, that FAST assessment is 3 times a year. And so as part of the law, we kicked it off this fall and looked at our results. And then online through this assessment system is where we can do our progress monitoring. So in this fall, when we did our first assessment, those kids that were considered at risk at that time, we began progress monitoring. So the teachers sit down with those kids once a week, and they go through a passage or look at some letters and give some sounds, and then we keep track of that progress online. And then we had our second assessment, and those kids that didn't meet benchmark in our second assessment and didn't beat benchmark in our fall assessment, so 2 assessment periods in a row, if they didn't meet the benchmark, then they're considered substantially deficient. Okay. And so then we'll continue to progress monitor them and also then look at some interventions for them. And I've been online and looked at the progress monitoring charts, and it's really cool to see, the little graph going up. Here's the trend line. And, I haven't looked at all of them, but quite a few that I pulled up, all of their progress is above that trend line. And that's where we want them to be.
And I bet that it's very rewarding when you guys see someone that's maybe below that benchmark that rises above it.
You bet.
And that's just one of the rewards of teaching, I bet, too.
Right.
So before we take a break, Mr. Bruder, can you tell me a little bit about the substantially deficient students?
And as you heard, Mrs. Johnson touched on that briefly, and those 2 words at first seem to scare people. Substantially deficient. Oh, what's that mean? And we talked about the FAST assessment already and what that means and how that guides us. But basically what it is, it helps us to become a team approach. And parents, teachers, the student, myself, Mrs. Johnson, support staff, and that we're all in this together. And that's what it's all about. And after break, we'll talk more about how we come together and make that happen.
Okay, sounds like a plan. You're listening to Northwest Bank Wildcat News on 97.7. We will be back in just over 30 seconds.
Hi, this is Julie Clendenin with Northwest Bank. Northwest Bank is proud of its partnership with the Humboldt Community Schools. Northwest Bank supports Wildcat academics and athletics and wishes the players, students, and parents continued success. Commitment you can bank on isn't just a slogan, it's the way we conduct our business to meet the needs of our customers. We offer great rates, great products, and superior service. Whether you're buying a house or shopping for a new car, come experience the difference. Northwest Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
You're listening to Northwest Bank Wildcat News on 97.7 The Bolt, and this morning I am joined by Tamela Johnson, the Director of Curriculum Instruction Assessment at Humboldt High School at Humboldt, and Mr. George Bruder, the elementary principal for Humboldt. And we were just talking about the Eli law, and now you say part of the law is about informing parents. So what are you currently doing to communicate with parents of these young students?
Yeah, I'll back up a little bit and then get into where we are currently today, because we didn't wait until yesterday to get started here, helping parents understand what the law is all about, and for that matter, students too. And it really began for us one school year ago. And the first time that I had a large group of parents in front of me was at Roundup, kindergarten, preschool Roundup, to inform them of the law. And of course, at that time, anytime you hear the word retention, which is, in third grade could happen. We're not even thinking about that. All the hard work that we're doing, our teachers are doing, our support staff is doing is not to let that happen. And that's where we need the parents on board too, which our parents have been wonderful. If we at least look at parent-teacher conferences, 99.9% attendance for that, and many times the students come too. So we had the round table take place a year ago in April. And then this fall, when we had conferences before the school year started, and we really liked this format, and that was an opportunity for us to talk about the ELI law again. And we have a really strong parent group called PAS, and we've had an opportunity to meet and greet with them and talk about what the ELI law is all about. And then again, November parent-teacher conferences, we were able to, again, let our parents know where their children are, where they stand. Those words substantially deficient, as I said earlier, scares some. But again, we don't look at it as a scary thing. We look at it as we know what work is ahead of us and how to help our students get to move forward with their reading skills. Department of Ed, of course, this is all legislative passed, and our Department of Ed is a big part of this. And Dr. Buck, the Department of Ed head man, I guess, as you say, he sent a letter out to us, and we forwarded that to parents, and that got things started. Our local newspaper has helped get the word out too, and of course here today, on the Bolt to talk about that. And so our parents are very much aware of the ELI law, and I've had an opportunity to begin meeting with parents after the FAST assessments. As you heard Mrs. Johnson say, 2 times substantially deficient in the fall, in the winter, and that's our key to sit down with parents and the student, the teacher, myself. Mrs. Johnson's involved in some of those meetings too, and the conversations I've had so far with parents have been powerful. And they're very open and asking good questions. They like the websites that we're referring them to help at home. And, what I hear from most parents, I read every night. We talk about what we read, and, parents are doing the right things.
That's good.
And it is, and that's exciting for us. So, It seems a little formal to sign a contract, but that's exactly what the law says, and that's what we're doing, and that's working out well for us. My goal is to finish the meetings, the face-to-face sessions by the end of this month, but we'll see how it goes. If we need to finish a few up at conference time, which is the beginning of March, we can. So, again, it's a team approach. Parents really appreciate that. And, the students we're talking about are 5, 6, 7 years old. They're like, they maybe not understand the law, but they want to be good readers, and that's what it's all about.
Okay. So now, what do you have established to ensure students develop the necessary skills to become proficient at reading?
We came up with the acronym WIN, W-I-N, and it's what I need. And our goal is to give every one of our unique readers the amount of time, the extra support that they need to develop those literacy skills that are so important. And we've formed at both Meese Elementary and at Taft Elementary. And right now, our concentration is for our EC5 students, our kindergarten students, and our first grade, because they're the ones that are going to be most impacted by spring of 2017.
Yep.
And of course, we're not neglecting second, third, and fourth, but this is where we've really been focusing a lot of our attention. And we formed groups for students that vary in size, but the students that are in a substantially deficient group are really a small group of 4 to 6 students at the most. And our licensed teachers are with them 30 minutes daily. Now, you think about 30 minutes daily, that's an addition to the 90 minutes of core.
Wow.
And we're very purposeful. It's not just sit down, open a book, and look at it. We're strategically planning, organizing, and as we heard some words earlier, research-based strategies. So we're excited about that. They get started for us today. As a matter of fact, at Taft Elementary, those groups do.
Cool.
And then tomorrow at Meese Elementary. So we've been planning really, really hard for this. We didn't start, like I said yesterday, we started over a year ago.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So now this law, it has become into effect, but there's another law that begins May 1st, 2017 for summer school planning. What can you tell me about this?
And again, we're kind of reiterate things here, but it's important for us to inform our parents and community too that what this is all about. And again, it's that word retention that seems to be kind of scary and that whole thing. But what are some steps we can do to prevent that from happening? So if there's still a student or two that's substantially deficient, the law requires that we have a summer school program organized, planned, and carried out. But and we will. But what's neat about it is, we've had some summer school sessions of some sort in place for many years here. Mm-hmm. But we want to enhance it. We want to build upon that. Matter of fact, we're really trying hard this summer to really beef up what we're doing already. And we got some plans in the making, and I guess I don't want to get too much out in the open yet until we finally have it planned. But we're not waiting for summer of 2017. Mm-hmm. We're starting now.
That's good. It sounds like you guys have got some great support from the parents. Now, what kind of resources have you been giving the parents and the caregivers to help them support these children and help these kids blossom?
Yeah, that's right. It's been great just kind of seeing all this fall into place. And, during our intervention time, our struggling readers are getting extra support, but our top readers are also getting extra support. They may be in a larger group, but we really want to extend their reading knowledge and their time on, looking at text and having those conversations. And, like Mr. Bruder said, parents are doing a lot of great things in their homes. They're reading to their kids. And, that amount of vocabulary that a 3-year-old has based on a literacy-rich environment is so essential. Mm-hmm. And so part of the plan is, when we go to college and we learn about how to teach reading, our parents don't have that advantage. And so what we want to do is share some of our knowledge with them. So a couple times a month, we're going to reach out through email. For those that don't have email, we'll be sending paper copies of just different strategic ways that they can be able to help and support their child. We'd like to do a little videotaping maybe of one of the teachers, providing some suggestions on like how to question their kids and put those out there so the parents can watch those. And of course, there's some professionally made videos that are also very good. And, any books and strategies is what we're going to provide them. We're working with our teacher leadership grant that we have. Rochelle Mao is really helping a lot with literacy, as well as she's our technology integrationist. And Mr. Bruder and Rochelle and I were having a conversation yesterday about what can we do to put together a blog or a website to be able to help support parents. So we send them an email and we put something in there, and might get lost in the shuffle, but by putting it on a web page or a blog, then they have access to it all the time when we add and we update. And Rochelle has put together some student web pages also where there are links to like our Reading Wonders reading program, our science program, our math program. And so it's very easy to click on a link. Here's for kindergarten kids. Here's some valid websites where they can go and practice those skills, punch on that icon, and then go there and practice their skills. So it's really good. And one thing we've had a lot of conversation about is that 0 to 4 range, what's happening with those kiddos and how can we ensure that they're coming in with the vocabulary that they need. And so we're working with Building Families, has offered some financial support as well as personnel. Our Humboldt Foundation, we've applied for a grant to be able to get some money. And the intent of that is like an outreach program. Our parents are busy, and the last thing they want to do is come to a meeting at 7 o'clock at night. And our caregivers in town town are in that same boat. So what can we do to outreach to them? And so our plan is to, put some book sets together, give them to some of the daycare centers, working with building families, maybe doing some traveling libraries that can go around between the caregivers, and maybe building families can come into those daycare centers and read to them and model those best practices. So, we're not just talking about our kids here in school, but we're trying to figure out what we can do to best meet and reach out to those kids, when they're first born. That's when that reading needs to start.
All right. It sounds like you guys have got some great support there from the teachers and the parents. Is there anything else you would like to mention, Mr. Bruder?
I just have a couple more things, and I hope you hear the passion that we're in our voices here this morning, because we love what we're doing. And if there's listeners out there that want to know more about the ELI law, we're available at Tamela's office is at Meese Elementary. I'm at Meese and Taft both, and we'd love to talk to community members, parents, more about this if they'd like to know more about it, or anything happening at the Humboldt schools. And just a couple more things. Boys and girls listening out there, it's very, very cold out this morning, so bundle up. It took my breath away when I went outside this morning, so definitely bundle up. I can't promise we'll be outside for recess, but bring those warm coats and hats and mittens. And next week, Wednesday, I'm back again, and I'll be talking more about Roundup, kindergarten Roundup and preschool Roundup, March 20th. Parents, you can put that on your calendar, but I'll have more information next week. And parents, like those that like to really get ahead on things, Mrs. Thomas at Meese has already taken names for next year's preschool and kindergarten. So you're welcome to give her a call and get on the list. So as always, we thank KHBT, the Bolt, for having us here, and we always enjoy our time here.
All right. Well, you heard it from Mr. Bruder. Stay tuned. Next week, we will be back with more news from the Humboldt School District.
This has been the Northwest Bank Wildcat News Program, presented every Wednesday at this time by Northwest Bank.